I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Good morning. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Community Forum. Every week we are excited about bringing information and engaging you in a conversation about the critical issues that we face today, not only in America but all over the world. Today we want to dedicate this broadcast to the memory of Allison Payne, a well-known Chicago area reporter, journalist, anchor on WGN television, such a community supporter, community activist. We miss Allison Payne, and we will be announcing in the coming weeks a memorial service in her honor. She was such a great person to know, to work with, and such a caring person.
We were not told about Rodney King being hit 56 times in 81 seconds with batons. We saw it with our own eyes. It was on video. So we saw 4 police beating Rodney King. It was clear cut. 56 times in 81 seconds. Something like this. Boom, pow, 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 pow.
That was New Jersey Senator Bill Bradley in 1992, and I will never forget that day in the Senate as we all watched when Bill Bradley made that impromptu decision on the Senate floor to hit his podium 56 times in 81 seconds to drive home to the United States Senate what everyone in America had seen in the video of Rodney King being almost beaten to death by Los Angeles police officers in 1991. The Senate chamber got quieter and quieter with each tap of Bill Bradley's pencil. He did it 56 times in 81 seconds. And we know about those 56 times in 81 seconds because a 30-year-old plumber named George Holliday reached for his new Sony video camera when he heard police sirens in a helicopter in the middle of the night. He told the Los Angeles Times, quote, "You know how it is when you have a new piece of technology, you film anything and everything." George Holliday stepped onto his balcony of his apartment and he aimed his camera at what the LA police officers were doing to a black man lying on the pavement. That video soon became the lead story on every newscast in America and then every newscast in the world. George Holliday's video gave white America their first real look at how policing works in black America. Last weekend, after being hospitalized with coronavirus for about a month in Simi Valley, California, George Holliday died at age 61. Last year, George Holliday hoped to buy a home by auctioning off the video camera he used to make history. He said he was hoping to, quote, "inspire people to use their cameras for everything, the bad and the good." When there were no bidders for his camera, George Holliday told The Sun, quote, "I've been a plumber for 43 years. It looks like I'm going to have to be a plumber for quite a few more years." In 1993, Reverend Jesse Jackson said this about George Holliday.
What was missed, by and large, in news commentary was that the only reason that we know anything about Rodney King is a white man named George Holliday filmed the beating and took it public. Had George Holliday not had the quickness of thought and the character to take the film public, he would never have known of a Rodney King. In other words, George Holliday went beyond color, went beyond race, up to the high plateau of courage with character to make America better and true to its commitment.
Reverend Jesse Jackson gets tonight's last word about George Holliday.
We also want to say happy birthday today, well, within 24 hours. We have our own attorney, Yusef Jackson. It's his birthday. Happy birthday, Yusef. And we want to say happy birthday to our own Executive Vice President, Dr. S. Todd Yeary. I want you to join me in celebrating the birthday of the president of Push for Excellence, none other than Dr. Julianne Malveaux. We are so excited that God has blessed you with another year to celebrate life. Congratulations. Today we're praying for a well-known, longtime civil rights activist, human rights activist, Reverend Walter Slim Coleman, who is recovering from surgery. We thank you for your commitment to social justice and social change each and every day. We're also praying for those refugees that are at our borders, the Haitian refugees, the Cuban refugees, as well as other refugees who've gathered at the southern border of the United States. We're praying for those families. We're praying for those children. We're praying for fair treatment. You should read Reverend Jackson's column this week. It gives us great details on the crisis at the border. He shares some historical insight and frame of reference about the crisis in Haiti. And let me just say this, we're calling on every religious organization. It is a moral disgrace what is happening to the Haitian refugees that are gathering continuously at the southern border of the United States, and many of them being deported without even an evaluation and assessment as to why they're here and how we can meet their needs. We're sending many of them back to die. Haiti has been ravaged by storms, earthquakes, and internal conflict, so much so that people are struggling with multiple health issues, including COVID pandemic. We want to make sure that we are gathering all of the information that we can, but we're also calling on all of the faith leaders. We will be hosting an international call to deal with the Haitian crisis within the next few days. You stay tuned for an update on Haiti.
Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow. Oh, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me
when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
Greetings. I am Dr. Sonia Whitaker, National Education Policy Director for Push Excel. We here at Push for Excellence recognize that as educators, you are experiencing more pressure than ever before in the history of public education. As a nation, we are indeed experiencing two very significant crises. One is associated with the pandemic outbreak, and the other is associated with intense race relations issues and the impact of both on educational leaders, teachers, students, and their parents. We want you to know that we here at Push Excel exist because we want to support you. We look forward to speaking and interacting with you as you continue to identify specific areas within your organization that you seek support. But we don't only want to just interact with you, we want to partner with you. And we are interested in doing so that we may all reach our goal of ensuring that all students gain equitable access to a quality education so as to better ensure that they are able to excel academically, socially, emotionally, and in a safe school environment. Please be on the lookout for more information about our national town hall series entitled Shaping America's Education Agenda. We want you to know that this school year, we will continue to conduct our national town hall series with scholars and practitioners who will offer expertise as it relates to supporting all of us in accomplishing the goals that we have established for our respective organizations. For more information about shaping America's education agenda via Push for Excellence, please visit pushexcel.org.
Hi, I'm Tim Lee, and today I want to talk to you about school and safety. But first, I want to congratulate all of you who have made it back to school and who have been in school for several weeks now. I'm sure that school is a lot different than it was in years past. And I want to help reinforce some of the tips that you can take daily in order to keep yourself safe as you are being educated. The first safety tip that I want to give you is to wear your mask correctly. And when you wear your mask, you want to make sure that your nose and your mouth are covered completely. This is important because the only way germs can get into your body is through your nose or your mouth. This means that if your mouth is covered, that is the first line of defense. The next safety tip is to refrain from touching your mask or your face. If you have germs on your mask and then you touch your mask, you're going to have germs on your hands. And if you have germs on your hands and you dig up your nose, you're going to have now germs in your nose. If you have germs on your hands and then you eat food without washing your hands, you're going to have germs in your body. So we want to make sure that you are not touching your face needlessly, that you are not touching your mask, and that if you must touch your face, you have to wash your hands and sanitize your hands. And when you wash your hands, make sure that you're washing them for at least 20 seconds. The next safety tip is how to sneeze. If you must sneeze or cough and sneeze, but sneeze in your elbow and not in your hands. Sneeze in your elbow, cough in your elbow, and not in your hands. And the last thing I want to share with you is to keep your body healthy. If you and your parents agree to get the vaccine, by all means, get it. But whatever you do, make sure your immune system is healthy. Your immune system is the system inside your body that fights off sickness, illness, and disease. And so the best way that you can make sure that your immune system is strengthened is to have vitamin C. Vitamin C can be found in a lot of foods. So make sure that you're looking at this list of foods and putting them in your diet as often as you can. Listen, friends, we want you to stay healthy. We want you to stay well so that you can excel in school and in life. And as Reverend Jackson always says, if your mind can conceive it and your heart can believe it, then you can achieve it. Until next time, I'm Tim Lee.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to welcome everyone to 2021's Heritage Day celebration in Chicago. Heritage Day was declared a public holiday in 1996. And since then, each September has been designated as Heritage Month in South Africa. And particularly the 24th of September has been the day that celebrates the cultural diversity of South Africa. In its essence, it's the day that we embrace and celebrate the true meaning of why we call ourselves the Rainbow Nation. In an address marking Heritage Day in 1996, the late former state president Nelson Mandela said, "When our first democratically elected government decided to make Heritage Day one of our national days, we did so because we knew that our rich and varied cultural heritage has a profound power to help build our new nation." Our founding fathers did so knowing the struggles that we faced against injustice and inequalities of the past. And they understood that those were a part of our national identity as well as our culture. They knew that indeed, for us as a nation to rise from the ashes of division and conflict, we had to acknowledge those whose selfless efforts and talents were dedicated to the goals of non-racial democracy.
The pain we have when we hear that this consulate is closing. This place holds many memories for many of us. I was a student here at the University of Mandalay. And in 1986, as students, we were fighting against apartheid, and I remember Reverend Jesse Jackson, Reverend Flager, they organized a protest. We came here in 1986, we walked in, and Reverend Jesse Jackson told the then Consular General that we would not leave this building until apartheid was ended. And many people from that march walked out in handcuffs because we did not leave this building. We were demanding the end of apartheid.
It is an honor for me to stand here as a young Black South African celebrating the last Heritage Day in Chicago and thanking God for the many years of exemplary support from the community in the Midwest region and all stakeholders here. We have had the most amazing friends and supporters of South Africa who have stood with us from day one and continue to stay with us even now. I'm so grateful that Her Excellency took time from a very grueling and busy schedule to come to the Midwest region to demonstrate the importance of this region to the government and the people of South Africa. And her presence really speaks volumes, and we thank you, Your Excellency, for being here.
We're celebrating Heritage Day today. Many years ago, we didn't realize, we didn't even think we would still be alive. We didn't even think we would have memorable events like this one. That speaks to the freedom that we fought ourselves. Whilst we were doing that, we made friends, in particular in Chicago, I must mention. Chicago was one area that on the eve of our freedom, Chicago stood up in different places. Well, maybe you'll say Sweden and other countries, but Chicago stood up in many places, telling everybody that if South Africa is not free, it also means resources from different countries, including some countries in the United States, are not going to take their money or anything to South Africa. I always say to people, at times, because we are free, we forget where we come from. Now, definitely with South Africa, we fought, but what we're fighting for, when you think of today and many, many other days, was not to have those who were persecuting us to leave their country to other countries. And some of them, even after apartheid, they are not coming back to South Africa. It's important for me to mention here that what we're doing in South Africa, the freedom we're fighting for, we're fighting for all South Africans to stay in a manner that everybody would see that as their country.
I want to thank you for inviting us to South African Heritage Day here in Chicago. This embassy, I remember marching here against apartheid before you came while you were in South Africa. And so this is an exciting moment for us. It's bittersweet in that we know the embassy is going to close temporarily. But thank you, Ambassador, for coming to the city of Chicago. And thank you for being such a powerful Consul General. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. No, thank you very much, ma'am. Yes, we're here and we know the painful thinking when you think of this consulate closing, but as I keep on saying in these 2 days, I really commit myself that the work that was done here will not be forgotten, but also we wouldn't allow it to go down. We will take responsibility because whatever was happening here would be with Washington, D.C., which means we'll have to work hard knowing that we also work with, Chicago.
And we want to work with you to help reopen this consulate and many others around the United States. As we help South Africa, you help us. We thank you so much for the work that you have done and the work that you're going to do.
Hello, I'm attorney Robert Patillo. I'm the executive director of the Rainbow Push Coalition's Peachtree Street Project here in Atlanta, Georgia. Here to remind you about the upcoming 22nd Annual Creating Opportunity Conference here in Atlanta, Georgia on October 14th and 15th of 2021. This conference will be taking place virtually, and we encourage you to register at rainbowpush.org or at creatingopportunityconference.org. This year we'll be honoring Reverend Jesse Jackson and his 80th birthday, as well as highlighting many of the initiatives we've been taking part in this region over the course of the past year. The pandemic has been hard on all of us, but we wanted to show that we are still fighting and moving the ball forward on civil and human rights within the region. We'll have panels including Black farmers and their articulation of what policy considerations need to be done going forward to help encourage that community and increase their productivity and access to federal funding. We'll have a women's roundtable where we discuss issues affecting women, particularly in the current political environment, as well as a youth symposium where we'll be highlighting young entrepreneurs and teens who are working to build the businesses of the future. We'll have an international session where we will be discussing the the members of the African diaspora and what's going on in their particular regions and what we here in the U.S. can do to help support those efforts. And also, of course, we'll be celebrating the life, legacy, and birthday of Reverend Jesse Jackson. We encourage all of you to register early as slots are filling up quickly. You can find more information at rainbowpush.org or at creatingopportunitiesconference.org in order to register. Of course, this event is virtual and free, and we encourage you to register now. And please spread the word about the wonderful work we're doing here at the Rainbow Push Coalition Southeast Region in the Peachtree Street Project. Thank you.
Many of you ask every week, what are you all doing? Well, one of the things that PUSH does, particularly on this broadcast, is to try to share information, give you some analysis of some of the issues that you may hear about, see you watching in the news media, looking at social media. For example, the United States Supreme Court every year, every term, issues cases that they're going to hear. There are several cases that we're concerned about that will be before the U.S. Supreme Court. They agreed, they announced on Monday that on December 1st, they're going to hear a case that will have great impact on the historic Roe versus Wade abortion decision. It is a case that arose in Mississippi, and it's based on a Mississippi law that bans all abortions after the 15th week of pregnancy. This will have far-reaching impact on a woman's right to choose. So we're going to be watching what happens in that case. And remember, Supreme Court judges, justices, are people, they're political appointees. They're not just some great legal scholars. And so they have a political ideology, those that sit on the court. And the court now is turning to be more conservative and less liberal. They're going to hear oral arguments on December 1st on the abortion case. Before they make a decision, they let both sides present oral arguments so they can hear why one side or the other should be supported. They're also going to hear a case involving public funding for education, whether or not state dollars can be used to fund religious instruction. That's a major issue because in many states across the country, we have a significant number of poor children whose resources are now being stretched based on several factors: cuts in income, cuts in grants from the feds, and now you're going to have this whole issue of using public dollars for private purposes. They're going to hear a case where a religious school is seeking to have some of the state dollars allocated to them and allow them to teach religious instruction and allow students to use those, what we call vouchers, for private education. And so that's the question. Do you want your tax dollars to be shared and given to those parents who decide they don't want their children in public school, they want them to go to private schools? That's a major issue, public versus private education. If that continues to happen and the Supreme Court rules in favor of that private school that is providing religious instruction, it could cost a lot of children in school districts across the country adequately funded, high-quality public education. And so that's the challenge. Do you want a system in America where every child does not get a high-quality public education, but those whose parents can pay, or those whose parents are able to put them in private schools and use public dollars for it, and then the rest of them, oh well. That's the issue, and the Supreme Court has decided, well, why is all this stuff about the court important? Well, the American system is based on balance of power. You have the judicial branch. It interprets legislation and says how the law should be applied. You have the legislative branch that makes laws, and unless someone challenges the law, that law remains on the books. And then you have the executive branch that enforces the law. Here we have the judicial branch looking at some legislation, one in Mississippi, one in Maine, that will impact the state laws in those states. Do we want to lose control of public education funding? This has been an ongoing debate, and now in light of the pandemic in light of the increased levels of poverty. What will that mean to poor children? That's what I'm asking you. Call me if you want to talk back to me. Tell me what you think. Educators, I need to hear from you. We want to know, how do you feel about this? On the abortion case, women's organizations are quite upset. They will be marching and demonstrating at the United States Supreme Court on October 2nd. Janice Mathis, Executive Director of the National Council of Negro Women, is leading a body of women's organizations to demonstrate at the Supreme Court. We're saying women have a right to choose. Women have a right to choose. It's our bodies, it's our opportunity to make a decision about them, because at the end of the day, we're the ones that can bear children. And so, the third thing we want to talk about is this border crisis. We want to make sure that however we decide to deal with people who come to America for asylum, who seek America for health care and support, it's not the fact that the people come, it is how do we treat the least of these. That's why we measure our faith. It's what do we do to those who come seeking help from us? Do we simply turn our backs on them? Do we ride horses and whip them back across the border? Or do we make an assessment of what their needs are, what we can provide? Do we call on all of our allies to say, what do we owe Haiti? What has Haiti done for the world that will cause the world to look back on Haiti and say, we owe you for all the things that you've produced and you've not been able to benefit financially. When we think of rice, Riceland's rice as an example, when we think of orchids, we must remember Haiti. So let us not forget Haiti and what Haiti has done for the world. We are calling on the global community to respond in this humanitarian crisis. Let us give back to Haiti what Haiti has given so much to the rest of us without any benefit to Haiti. Now, I understand that in some cities and states, based on this Delta variant, many schools are going back to remote learning. We want to let you know that Push Excel is planning to launch a virtual homework hotline to make sure our students are engaged in learning. We want to help schools. If you have some questions or suggestions, we're calling on retired teachers. You don't have to do absolutely nothing. Call us if you're willing to volunteer with Push Excel. We need you to become a part of our Saturday school program.
We're excited to get more people involved in Rainbow Push, supporting the programs of Push for Excellence and the Citizenship Education Fund. If you're interested in impacting public policies, if you believe in the scholarships that we give to thousands of students each and every year, you can become a policymaker by becoming a member of Rainbow Push right now. For an annual membership of $35, or if you're a student or senior, $15, you can help us make a difference in the lives of millions. How do you become a member? Visit our website at rainbowpush.org and press join. Or maybe you'd like to support us. You can text the word PUSH, that's P-U-S-H, to 41444 on your cell phone, and you can give any amount you feel comfortable giving. You can also call us at 773-256-2775, or go to rainbowpush.org and push donate. Wherever you are, you can support us as we keep pushing for you.
I am happy today to announce that my mother and father have both been released from Northwestern University Hospital here in Chicago. My father was discharged today. My mother had been discharged 2 weeks ago. It was August 21st that my parents were both admitted, and it was on September 21st that I heard my father was going to be released today. I am so excited about that. I know the doctors can do but so much, and science can take us but so far. But I tell you, I know I am a believer that prayer has made the difference. And I want to thank God for all of you that have prayed for my parents, prayed for my mother, prayed for my father. I feel so blessed. My mother and father have made it through yet another miraculous part of their journey in life. I will be praying for your family. Continue to pray for ours. There is much work for us to do. On today, when I picked up my father from the hospital, he was so excited to be out to breathe fresh air. This was the first time he was able to see his caregivers 30 days later without their mask on outside. These people were so kind and generous at Northwestern. We thank their staff. And we pray for all those that are still infirmed. Health sciences definitely is a God blessing for our society. We can alleviate cancer. We can eradicate these crippling diseases. We can live a more fulfilling life. So continue to pray for us. We'll pray for you. Let's get vaccinated so that we have the strength to fight this deadly virus. On to the agenda today at the Rainbow Push Coalition. The first thing my father brought to my attention is he almost got out of bed when he saw what was happening with Haitians in Del Rio, Texas. So on tonight, I am going to Dallas as a representative of Rainbow Push to meet up with Reverend Al Sharp and other ministers. From there, we're flying from Dallas into Del Rio tomorrow on Thursday to give a firsthand account of what's happening on the border. We, like many of you, were horrified to see modern day slave catchers, if you will, the insurgent factors of the Texas Taliban, people on horseback with whips trying to strike African bodies once again. We're talking about being into the third decade of the new millennium. These veins of racism and racists run deep and strong. While we are welcoming those from Afghan over here and saying that they need to escape persecution, as we have talked about the Dreamers Act to make accommodations for those that have crossed our borders from Mexico and South and Central America. And then we see a violent sort of reaction to those black bodies, those African people, those Haitians that are coming over here for opportunities and to flee oppression and the earthquake and trauma and things that are going on in their country. And we don't come with any open arms. And now, in the words of Reverend Martin Luther King, at the end of the day, it's not the words of your enemies that bother you, it's the silence of your friends. It's the silence of our liberal friends that are too quiet, that give eloquent speeches about dreamers. It's those silence of the people that talk about women's rights and the right to vote, that have open arms for the Taliban and former members of the Afghan citizenry that come here. But then when it comes time to Haitian people, they're silent, they're quiet, they act like they didn't see it on television. They're silent, they turn their eyes. It's a willful blindness. So we're going down there to put attention on the border. We're taking this straight to the President of the United States. We're taking this straight to the Congress. We demand action, we demand civility. We will not let any people be treated this way. And to see the silence and indifference. And my father's oftentimes told me, Reverend Jesse Jackson, the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. When you just turn a willful eye to ignore someone. But we're not going to ignore our Haitian brothers and sisters. They're God's children. They need our assistance. And our country is big enough, and we believe we are humane enough, and we're going to fight for their rights to be treated as God's children. We acknowledge their humanity. And we're going to push back. So we ask that you continue to support us here at the Rainbow Push. Fighting for you is what we do. And I'm honored to serve as a national spokesperson. And I'll give you an update when I get back from the border of Mexico with our Haitian community.
Hello again, I'm Todd Yeary, and welcome to this week's edition of Due Process. The efforts to advance police reform after the death of George Floyd and numerous other in-custody deaths failed, as no agreement could be reached between Democratic and Republican negotiators led by Senator Cory Booker, Democrat of New Jersey, and Senator Tim Scott, Republican of South Carolina. Even with significant concessions such as the removal of qualified immunity, the criminalization of excessive use of force, and no-knock warrants from the proposal, Senate Republicans would not sign on to the bill. Some have even criticized Republican positions that opposed pieces of the proposal that had been supported in previous versions. In what appears to be a clear moving of the goalposts to avoid reaching consensus, not even support from the Fraternal Order of Police could motivate an agreement around the other parts of the bill. Senator Scott accused the Democrats of walking away from negotiations and squandering an opportunity to implement meaningful reform. While the finger-pointing continues, the state of policing, after the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Philando Castile, Corinne Gaines, Freddie Gray, Dante Wright, Andre Hill, Manuel Ellis, Rayshard Brooks, Daniel Prude, Tatiana Jefferson, Stephon Clark, and many, many others continue to highlight the sense of urgency that is missing from these negotiations. As Reverend Jackson, I, and the Rainbow Push Coalition wrote in our submission to the United Nations High Commission for Human Rights, the United States continues to be in violation of its obligations under the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. Specifically, portions of Article 2, which require that the United States, quote, take effective measures to review governmental, national, and local policies and to amend, rescind, or nullify any laws and regulations which have the effect of creating or perpetuating racial discrimination wherever it exists, and shall prohibit and bring to an end, by all appropriate means, including legislation as required by circumstances, racial discrimination by any persons, group, or organization, end quote. Until these fundamental human rights are protected, we will continue to demand action from the Congress and the courts to ensure adherence to the treaty obligations accepted by the United States when it ratified the convention in 1994. Immigration issues continue to dominate the news as thousands of migrants seeking refuge are massing at the southern border with Texas. While most of these refugees are reported to be Haitian, there are many from Central American countries also seeking refuge. The outcry against mass deportations of Haitian refugees continues to highlight the disparity in treatment of refugees and asylees of color. As we have seen under the Trump administration, which rescinded many of the visa provisions and temporary protected status for migrants fleeing political oppression, the treatment of Haitian immigrants seems to contradict the assertions of the Biden administration to promote a more humanitarian immigration policy. While the Biden administration has indicated an intent to raise the refugee cap to 125,000 in fiscal year 2022, there has been no specific indication of which refugee challenges will take priority, except as it relates to Afghan refugees seeking admission after the end of the war in Afghanistan last month. Based on the administration's commitment to resettle 62,500 refugees by September 30th, the end of the current fiscal year, only about 8,000 had been resettled by the end of August. This would indicate more than adequate capacity to reconsider the current policy of deportation and, in some instances, violent and aggressive acts against Haitian refugees, as seen in some of the images from the southern border. This week, we saw action in federal courts around immigration policies. Because most of the migrants at the southern border have passed through another country, the restriction on asylum applications for persons who have entered another country prior to reaching the United States continues to be a relevant issue. Immigration advocates have asked the D.C. Circuit Court to leave a ban in place for the policy that required asylum seekers to first apply for asylum in a country they have entered prior to reaching the United States. Even though the interim rules for the policy that prohibited asylum applications without adhering to this requirement have expired, there is a concern that the courts must weigh in on the propriety of imposing such a requirement without first receiving public comment. The Biden administration is asking that the lawsuits simply go away because there is no longer an issue. Advocates want the courts to settle the legal question in the event that this administration or any other might try to circumvent the public disclosure process to advance a discriminatory immigration policy. Also, in Florida, a federal judge struck down portions of a 2019 state law banning sanctuary immigration policies as unconstitutional because the law demonstrated a discriminatory intent and violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. The court found that the city of South Miami and immigration organizations had demonstrated that racial discrimination was a key factor in the passage of the state law based on involvement of anti-immigration hate groups in drafting of the legislation. Additionally, the local governments and advocacy groups argued that the law led to increased racial profiling, harassment, and detention of people of color, and undermined trust in law enforcement due to a climate of fear and intimidation. As a result, the judge barred the state from enforcing provisions that required law enforcement agencies to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement efforts, and also barred state limitations on local governments from adopting sanctuary policies that would prohibit such cooperation. Rainbow Push Coalition and our partner human rights organizations will continue to monitor the refugee situation on the border and continue to press the Biden administration to honor its commitment to a more humane and responsive immigration policy. Finally, last month, Ancestry.com released what has been called the largest digital collection in the world of searchable records from the Freedmen's Bureau. The collection of more than 3.5 million family and bank records is being made available to assist descendants of formerly enslaved persons in finding out more about family lineages. The Freedmen's Bureau was created and established after the Civil War to assist formerly enslaved persons in their transition to freedom. The records in the database include labor contracts, marriage records, personal letters, and other documents. While public awareness of the Freedmen's Bureau has historically been very low, the availability of the database could prove very helpful in deepening the knowledge about families and relatives that many thought would not be possible. Here's to good researching. And that is this week's Due Process. For more information on these issues and other areas of our work, visit rainbowpush.org. I'm Todd Yeary.
Woke up to a world that is changing. Looking out the window got me wondering lately, will we be okay? Will we be okay? One day I can feel the sun shining. They say a bullet can leave a mama crying. Will she be okay? Tell me, will we be okay? Life is taking everything that I have just to survive. I got $25 in my pocket, and I think another 10 in my glove compartment. I'm trying so bad not to cry, but it's hard to stop it. But you say I love my needs, you promise you got it, so I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay, okay, okay. See, I gotta remember that my God is bigger than any battle I'll ever face. So I'm gonna be okay. Why do we hate one another when love is the most beautiful color? It takes everything okay? Where is the American dream? If only 1% knows what it means to really be okay. Tell me, is that okay? Life is taking everything that I have just to survive. I've got $25 in my pocket, and I think another 10 in my glove compartment. I'm trying so bad not to cry, but it's hard to stop it. But you say all of my needs, you promise you got it. So I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay. Okay, okay. See, I gotta remember that my God is bigger than any battle I'll ever face. So I'm gonna be okay. See, our God is great. The season of pain, it won't last always. Life is taking everything that I have just to survive. You've got $25 in your pocket, and you think another 10 in your glove compartment. But that family with no food would trade places with you. Give thanks and don't forget how you got it, and you gon' be okay. We gon' be okay. Okay, okay. See, I gotta remember that my God is bigger than any battle I'll ever face. So I'm gon' be okay. We gon' be okay. And you gon' be okay. I'm gon' be okay. Okay, okay, okay.
Push Excel's goal is to inspire students to strive for excellence in education in spite of personal, family, and community challenges that they might experience. How do we do this? By advocating for educational policies that guarantee equal funding for all students without regard to race or economic standing. By engaging parents, students, and teachers in pursuing high-quality education and striving for educational excellence at every level. And by forging partnerships with community-based and public sector stakeholders in education. Now, Push Excel is a national model program with the purpose of connecting principals, parents, popular personalities, and students in a bond and to support students at every level on the educational ladder. Now, we want you to become a member of the Rainbow Push Coalition and Push Excel. Your annual membership can help us to change policies that impact students, colleges, and universities all around the country. So step up and sign up today. Membership is only $35, and if you're a student or a senior, $15. Just go to our website, rainbowpush.org, and push join to become a member or push donate to support the Push Excel program. You can also text the word Push Excel, that's PUSHEXCEL, to 41444 on your cell phone, and you can give us any amount that you feel comfortable giving or call us at 773-256-2775. Wherever you are, you can support us as we keep pushing for you. And remember to keep hope alive.
Dr. Kim, I went to jail with a group of 7 students, July 17, 1960, almost 60 years ago. We never stopped moving. I lost a few of jail cells and death. We never stopped moving. I thought it was time to write some of it down so the older generation can learn how we did, and what we did, and how global it was. Whether speaking about Mandela in South Africa, India, Qatar, Gandhi in India, here at home. This book tells the story, so please get it and give it to your friends. Read it, let's argue about it, let's discuss it.
Yep. So the book is Keeping Hope Alive: Sermons and Speeches of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. It's quite a good collection. You know, we've got sermons and speeches from around the globe because you have made such a global impact, not just here in the U.S., but around the world.
Get your dollars ready. Reverend Jackson's birthday is coming up October 8th. What Reverend Jackson wants you to do is to become a member of the organization that he spent 60 plus years serving, giving, and working, pushing for you is what he does. And so he's asking you now to push back and give.
Thank you for tuning in to our International Saturday morning broadcast. We need your support. Here are ways to give to Rainbow Push Coalition. Text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444 to support the work of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. and Rainbow Push Coalition. When you shop, Amazon gives. Visit Amazon Smile and select Push for Excellence as your charitable organization by starting your shopping at smile.amazon.com.
We are Sanctuary. We are a sanctuary.
When I think of Rainbow Push, I think of two words: social justice.
Education advocacy.
Political empowerment.
Freedom and equality.
Corporate partnership.
Stop the violence. Save the children. Don't get in. Shut it down. If we don't get in, shut it down.
Political change.
Inclusion, evolution. Progress, justice.
Jesse Jackson.
Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
We want to be bridges to end these cultural gaps.
Going forward. By hope. Not backwards. By fear.